As Louisa Wall has said earlier this evening, she hopes that there are people listening across the House, and I have been listening intently to what has been said here this evening with regard at this committee stage of this bill. And I've got to say, I've been really somewhat taken aback from what I've heard from the other side of the House of really what, if you listen to if you follow the logic through of what's been said, almost a judgment on parents who would go back to work before their children are turned 3, because actually there are parents who do that all the time and their children cope okay, and these people over there have kind of basically said that's a bad thing to do. You shouldn't go back to work until your child's 3 because developmentally that's not good for them. And I've been quite surprised, I've got to say, to hear that coming from the other side of the House. I know personally in our own household, actually, that's exactly what we did do. We went to extraordinary lengths to ensure that one of us would be home with our kids when they were young. I spent a fair bit of time at home myself with our kids when they were little. That was what we valued to do. But Mr. Chair, there are some absolutely definite reasons why in this legislation that this is a beneficial thing for these young parents. Now, yes, guess what? There are some expectations that we're putting on some people. Yes, there are some requirements of things that we expect them to do. We actually want them to actually take some responsibility, and so there are some requirements for them to actually get back into learning and otherwise. And what's been said from other members opposite me this evening is that actually how is this going to benefit the children if a young mother is going back to school full-time? Well, I'll tell you how it benefits the children. It benefits the children because actually if that parent is getting an education, their chances of providing for that child further down the track, spending less time simply relying on a government benefit to get them through, then those kids are going to be better off in the long term. But actually the beauty about the teen parent units and the ones that I've visited and had the opportunity to go and speak with young parents at is actually they're not just sitting at home isolated with their small young child, which potentially they will be if they're not involved in education, but they're actually there mixing with other mothers. They're actually there mixing with their teachers and have the opportunities as the day goes through to still actually have some connection with their children. The teen parenting unit and the model for the education that is being provided there is not simply about a mother leaving their child behind, going away and ignoring them. No, Mr. Chair, what I've seen and what I've experienced and in the conversations that I've had with those mums who are there, they like the opportunity to be able to learn. They have aspirations for themselves and I support them in that. The ones I've talked to want to go further, they want to do more, and they really appreciate the fact that more often than not, their child is just in a room next door or a couple of doors down. They have the opportunity to see them, to do feeds if they're still at the stage of feeding them. They can actually catch up with them at morning tea time, lunchtime or whatever, and that they are supported in that. The other thing that's been questioned is where's the proof that this is working? And Mr. Chair, I want to just make mention of what the main benefit client numbers are doing for 18 to 24-year-olds, because actually in March of 2016, the number of 18 to 24-year-olds who were on the main benefits was 45,493. In 2014, in March of 2014, that number was 50,000. Mr. Chair, there are roughly 5,000 or 10% less young people aged 18 to 24 on benefits. Getting people off benefits into work, into education is going to be beneficial to them, absolutely beneficial to them in the long time. Now, the other thing that has been said from across the House tonight is that we're putting labels on, that actually we're painting young people into a corner, that we're not being aspirational for them. Well, I've just got to say that shows a complete lack of understanding of what it is to work with young people. Now, to work with young people, you've got to identify which ones to start with, and there has to be an assessment criteria. When I was working in child and adolescent mental health, it was a tertiary mental health service. We didn't have our doors wide open for everybody to come along. No, you had to be referred there either by a GP or a guidance counsellor in order to be able to... Mr Chair.
Jono Naylor.
Thank you, Mr Chair. You had to be referred there by somebody else, and that was the form of assessment. Somebody had to meet certain criteria before that service would actually intervene. Then, of course, as anybody who works with a young person knows, you don't stay in that place. You don't stay with identifying with them and say, you're a high-risk person, now I'm going to treat you like this. No, you work with them on their strengths. A good mentor, and we've got some great mentors who are working through our youth services right now, who are doing great work with our young people, working with them, identifying their strengths, believing in them, but guess what? We're aspiring more for them. We're suggesting to them that they can actually take some responsibility in their own lives. We're giving that to them bit by bit as they prove that they can manage on their own. Mr Chair, this is a good bill. This is going to ensure that more young people are going to go further, more young parents are going to do better with their families, and that those children within those families will have a better shot at a better life within Aotearoa New Zealand. Mr Chair, I am delighted to support this. I think it's been really well thought through. It's evidence-based. It is about not just sitting back. It is not about just sitting back and saying, actually, you know what, this is acceptable. We're just going to leave things how they were. It's really interesting. I've heard people say, you know what, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. Let's do nothing. Well, actually, Mr Chair, we're not going to do nothing. We're going to do something. We're going to invest in these young people. We're going to provide them with good services. We're going to provide them with good support. And we're going to see great young New Zealanders come through as a result of this intervention.
Mr Chair, great.
Before I make the next